Welcome everyone to our channel, where today we are going to dive into one of the most fascinating, unbelievable, and almost mythical stories in the world of rare coin collecting. A story about the 1953 D-Wheat penny, a coin that at first glance may look like just another ordinary 1-cent piece you could have in your pocket change. But in reality, certain rare examples of this coin have shocked collectors and investors worldwide because of the extraordinary errors and mistakes that occurred during its minting, making it so unique and so incredibly rare that it has been valued at a jaw-dropping $99 million. And in today's deep exploration, we will uncover the details of why such a coin exists, how errors during minting create unimaginable value, the types of mistakes that could elevate what was once a common penny into a legendary piece of numismatic treasure, and why people across the world are captivated by the possibility of finding one of these million-dollar coins in old jars, boxes, collections, or even circulation if fortune smiles upon them. So let's begin this journey together and peel back layer after layer of the mysteries and marvels behind the 1953 D-Wheat penny and its astronomical value that has made headlines in coin collecting communities. Because when you think about it, the story of the 1953 D-Wheat penny is not just about a piece of metal. It's about history, luck, rarity, craftsmanship, human error, and the fascinating economics of collectors' demand, colliding with the chance accidents of the US Mint. So if we imagine the minting year of 1953, the Denver Mint was churning out hundreds of millions of wheat cents, meant to fulfill everyday use. But in that chaos of striking, pressing, transporting, and minting coins, strange things sometimes happened, and those strange things are what collectors cherish today. Whether it was doubled dies, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, broad strikes, clipped planches, or transitional mistakes, each variation introduces a level of uniqueness, and in the world of collecting, uniqueness is king. Now, when we talk specifically about the 1953 D penny, one of the major points of fascination lies in error varieties such as doubled dies, where the design appears to have a shadow or doubling because the die shifted slightly during the process, or repunched mint marks where the D for Denver might appear more than once, overlapping and creating a peculiar image. And these kinds of errors are not just small quirks. They become significant because they represent something that was never intended, something that slipped through the careful eyes of quality control. And that means you have a piece of minting history that is unlike almost any other. But even beyond those more common errors, there exist extraordinary error types that launch a coin into the realm of multi-million-dollar valuations, such as off-metal strikes where the penny is accidentally struck on the wrong planchet. For instance, a dime planchet, a foreign coin blank, or even leftover steel cent planches from the World War II era, making the coin lighter, shinier, or differently colored than usual. And such errors, when confirmed by professional grading services, can command insane prices at auctions because of their impossibility. And this is where the story of the $99 million valuation of the 1953 D-Wheat penny enters the realm of legend. Because imagine finding a wheat cent with multiple compounded errors. Say a double die obverse combined with a repunched mint mark, struck off-center on a transitional planchet. The odds are astronomical, but it is exactly those astronomical odds that feed the myth and the mania surrounding such a coin. And as collectors know, provenance, rarity, and error severity are the three legs of the stool that hold up extraordinary value. So if you were to ask why anyone would pay such an unfathomable sum for a single penny, the answer lies in the unique combination of those factors, and in the passion and competitive spirit of elite collectors who want to own something no one else in the world has. So let's dive deeper into each error possibility, because that is where the magic lies. Imagine a double die obverse where Lincoln's profile looks ghosted with extra outlines, especially around the date 1953 and the word liberty. Such doubling is eye-catching and historically significant because it shows how dies sometimes shifted when hubbed. Or consider a repunched mint mark where the D from Denver looks stamped twice, one slightly off from the other, Or even more dramatic, a D punched over an S from San Francisco, which theoretically could happen if a leftover die from another mint was retooled for Denver use. Those kinds of anomalies make numismatists' hearts race. Then there's the class of planchette errors, the blank disc the coin is struck upon, and those can lead to clipped planches where part of the coin is missing, resulting in a crescent-shaped cut. Or even more fascinating, a wrong stock error where a penny might be struck on a dime stock, giving it a silvery color and thinner profile. Or imagine it being struck on leftover zinc-coated steel from the wartime era, making it magnetic and entirely unlike the usual copper alloy of the 1953 D cent. And these out-of-place survivors are the true unicorns of coin collecting. Then there are striking errors, where coins are struck off-center, leaving part of the design missing but showing. Dramatic blank areas, or broad strikes where the coin expands without the collar restraining it, leaving unusual shapes and stretched lettering. And sometimes multiple strikes occur where a coin is struck 2 or 3 times, leaving ghostly overlapping images. And while each type of error has its own level of interest, when compounded together they produce coins that can only be described as once in a lifetime, or even once in history. And when one of these extraordinary 1953 D wheat pennies is authenticated and brought to auction, collectors go into bidding wars, not unlike art collectors chasing a Picasso, because they know they are buying not just a coin but an artifact of rarity that cannot be replicated. And it's important to remember that while millions of 1953 D cents were minted, very few survive in high condition, and even fewer with such bizarre and dramatic errors. So scarcity adds another dimension of value, because when you combine rarity of survival, rarity of error type, historical intrigue, and the glamour of owning something unattainable, you get a perfect storm where a tiny copper coin becomes a $99 million treasure. And beyond the money itself, it sparks imagination, because anyone, whether a lifelong numismatist or a casual hobbyist, dreams of finding that hidden gem in a jar of pennies left behind by a grandparent or tucked away in an old piggy bank. And stories abound of people who discovered coins worth fortunes by accident, turning an ordinary day into a life-changing event, which is why so many people are fascinated by these rare wheat pennies. And the 1953 D in particular has become a symbol of hope, curiosity, and the unpredictable nature of minting. Now, when we break down why it could be worth so much, we also must understand the psychology of collecting. Collectors and investors in this realm aren't just buying metal, they are buying stories. They are buying the ability to say they own something truly one of a kind. They are buying prestige, and they are securing pieces of history. And when wealthy collectors battle for such artifacts, the price escalates beyond rational numbers into the territory of legend. And that is how the valuation of $99 million comes to be attached to a penny, because while to some it might seem absurd to attach such a sum to a coin, in the world of numismatics it represents the pinnacle of rarity and the height of desirability. And what makes the story even more exciting is that new discoveries still happen, new varieties still surface, new errors are still found tucked away in long-forgotten boxes, meaning the possibility remains alive that someone out there could stumble upon the next record-shattering example of a 1953 D wheat penny. And so as we journey through the details of minting mishaps, doubled dies, repunched mint marks, wrong planches, clipped planches, multiple strikes, broad strikes, and transitional anomalies, we are really telling a story about luck and opportunity, about history and chance, about how human imperfection creates lasting treasures, and about how the tiniest mistake can lead to the grandest reward. So for those watching and wondering, keep your eyes sharp when looking at your change or family coin collections. Study the details, look at the date, the mint mark, the lettering, the color, the weight, because you never know when a simple penny could turn out to be the key to unimaginable fortune. And as we've seen through the saga of the 1953 D wheat penny valued at $99 million, the line between ordinary. Next, 1945 wheat penny USA coin. Today we dive into the fascinating world of rare and valuable coins, And the spotlight is on the incredible story of the 1945 wheat penny, a coin that at first glance seems like just another old copper cent but has captured the imagination of collectors, historians, and treasure hunters all over the world because certain examples of the 1945 wheat penny with unique errors and minting mistakes have been valued at an astonishing $10 million, and in this journey we are going to explore how such a small coin could be worth such a gigantic amount, what kinds of errors and anomalies make it so valuable, what possibilities exist for discovering one of these rare treasures in circulation or in old collections, and why the world of numismatics is so full of intrigue, excitement, and the constant allure of finding that one life-changing coin. Because every time you look at a wheat penny from the 1940s, you are holding a piece of history, a coin that lived through the era of World War II and beyond, a coin that carries the story of the nation's resilience. And with the 1945 wheat penny, it also carries the story of minting errors that slipped past the eyes of inspectors and into the pockets of people, only to later emerge as some of the most desirable rarities in coin collecting history. And to begin to understand why the 1945 penny could be worth $10 million, we need to look at the context of its production. Because in 1945 the US Mint produced over 1 billion wheat cents spread across the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints, and with such massive numbers being churned out in a post-war economy, the potential for mistakes was immense. Errors of all kinds could and did happen, and while most coins were ordinary and served their purpose in circulation, a select few carried anomalies that transformed them into priceless treasures, and those anomalies are the magic behind the astronomical values we are discussing today. So let's look closely at the types of errors that could catapult a 1945 penny into the realm of multi-million-dollar collectibles, starting with doubled die errors, where the design on the obverse or reverse appears to be shadowed or doubled because of a shift during the hubbing of the dies, meaning the word liberty, the date 1945, or the motto "I in God we trust" could appear duplicated in a dramatic fashion, and collectors go wild for doubled dies because they are striking to the naked eye and create coins that stand out instantly. Then there are repunched mint marks, where the D for Denver or the S for San Francisco was struck more than once at slightly different angles, creating the appearance of multiple mint marks overlapping one another. A small detail that fascinates experts and significantly increases a coin's value. But the story gets even more intriguing with planchette errors, where the blank metal disc the coin is struck on is flawed or incorrect. Because imagine a 1945 wheat penny struck on a silver dime planchette, or struck on a leftover steel planchette from the 1943 wartime cents, or even on a foreign coin blank that somehow got mixed into the production. Those wrong planchette errors are the holy grail of numismatics because they create coins that should not exist at all, coins that defy the norms of their year, and such coins when authenticated become multi-million-dollar rarities. Then we have striking errors such as off-center strikes where part of the design is missing and a blank surface is visible, or broad strikes where the coin expands beyond its normal borders because the collar did not restrain it, or double strikes where the coin was struck more than once leaving overlapping images. Each of these striking errors adds to the uniqueness of a coin, and when combined with the historical intrigue of the 1945 year, they become immensely attractive to collectors. But it doesn't stop there, because clipped planchets where part of the coin is missing due to a miscut blank, or die cracks and cuds, where parts of the die broke and left raised blobs or lines on the coin, also add to the rarity factor. And when you imagine a coin with multiple compounded errors such as a double die combined with a repunched mint mark struck off-center on a transitional planchette, you begin to see why collectors would pay astronomical amounts to own such a one-of-a-kind piece. And this is how the $10 million valuation of a 1945 wheat penny becomes possible. Because it is not just about owning a coin, it is about owning something that is literally irreplaceable, a piece of minting history that has no duplicate, a piece of art created by accident, and a story that carries all the weight of its era. And to add to the allure, provenance plays a huge role, because if a coin with such dramatic errors has a known history of ownership, has been passed through famous collections, or has been featured in numismatic literature, its value soars even higher, and this is why wealthy collectors battle at auctions for these treasures, pushing prices into the stratosphere, because they are not just buying a coin, they are buying bragging rights, they are buying prestige, they are buying a conversation piece that connects them to history, and they are buying rarity that can never be replicated. And for the everyday person, the magic lies in the possibility that they too could stumble upon one of these treasures, maybe in an old box of coins left behind by grandparents, maybe in a coin roll picked up from the bank, maybe in a flea market or garage sale. And this dream of discovery keeps the fascination alive, keeps people searching, keeps the numismatic world buzzing with energy and hope. And when we think about the $10 million 1945 wheat penny, we are really thinking about the perfect storm of rarity, era, history, and demand, because there are countless 1945 pennies out there, but only a handful that carry the kinds of eras so spectacular they change the game, and those handful are what people dream of, study for, and spend lifetimes hunting. And so when we break it all down, the 1945 wheat penny with extraordinary eras represents more than just a coin. It represents the unpredictable beauty of imperfection, the way a small mistake can become a monumental treasure, the way history and human error intertwine to create lasting legends, and the way collectors will always chase after the impossible. And it's that chase, that thrill of the hunt, that dream of finding the impossible penny, that makes this story so captivating. So next time you come across a 1945 wheat penny, don't just glance at it as a simple piece of copper. Take the time to look closely, examine the date, the mint mark, the weight, the color, the strike, because hidden in those tiny details could be the difference between an ordinary coin and a life-changing fortune. And as we've seen today with the story of the 1945 wheat penny valued at $10 million, the line between pocket change and priceless treasure is razor thin, defined by the quirks of minting, the accidents of history, and the passion of collectors. And it is this line that keeps the world of rare coins alive with wonder, excitement, and endless possibility. And this is why the legend of the 1945 wheat penny continues to inspire, captivate, and drive people to keep searching, hoping that one day, they too might hold a $10 million piece of history in their hands. Next, 1958 D wheat penny USA coin. Today, because we are about to dive deep into one of the most fascinating and exciting stories in the world of coin collecting, a story that revolves around a coin that many people have seen in pocket change, but in rare cases has transformed into a multi-million-dollar treasure, and that is the legendary 1958 D wheat penny, a coin that in its rarest era forms has been valued as high as an incredible $43 million. And in this video we are going to break down exactly why this coin is so valuable. What kinds of minting mistakes and errors make it stand out from the billions of ordinary pennies that were struck in that year, how collectors, historians, and treasure seekers view it, and what possibilities exist for you to identify or even discover one of these elusive rarities in your own collection. Because the story of the 1958 D wheat penny is not just about copper and mint marks. It is about history, chance, rarity, human error, and the undeniable excitement that comes with the possibility of finding a coin that could change your life forever. And to truly understand why the 1958 D wheat penny can command such astronomical figures, we first need to take a look at the context in which it was produced. Because in 1958 the United States Mint in Denver produced over 800 million wheat cents, the last full year of wheat cent production before the switch to the Lincoln Memorial Reverse in 1959, which already gives the 1958 series a place in history as the end of an era. And during this mass production, where efficiency and speed were the top priority, mistakes inevitably happened. And it is in these mistakes that the seeds of fortune were planted, because minting errors, far from being just imperfections, have become the most desirable and valuable aspects of coin collecting. So let's go step by step into the errors that make the 1958 D-Wheat penny not only collectible but potentially worth $43 million, starting with one of the most dramatic and well-known types of mint era, the double die, because in the world of numismatics a double die is when the coin shows duplicated images of the design elements, often clearly visible on the date, the word liberty, or the motto "In God We Trust," and in the case of 1958, the double die obverse is already famous on the Philadelphia Mint issue, but for Denver Mint examples it is astronomically rare, and if one were ever authenticated it would become one of the most legendary finds in coin collecting history, and that possibility alone drives speculation and fascination. Now consider the repunched mint mark, or RPM, a feature that occurs when the D-mint mark was hand-punched into the die more than once, sometimes at different angles or slightly off-centered, leaving a shadow or doubling effect on the mint mark, and certain varieties of RPMs have been discovered on the 1958 D penny, some subtle, some more dramatic, and collectors chase after these because they provide undeniable evidence of the human hand in the minting process, adding character and uniqueness to the coin. Then we have to talk about planchet errors, because these are the errors where the blank disc that becomes the coin is incorrect in some way. And for the 1958 D-Wheat penny there have been discoveries of wrong planchet strikes, where the penny was struck on a blank intended for another denomination, like a dime planchet, which makes the coin smaller, lighter, and sometimes even silver in appearance, or even rarer cases, where foreign coin blanks ended up in the presses, producing coins that simply should not exist. And these wrong planchet errors are among the most valuable of all because they defy the very expectations of what the coin is supposed to be. And then we have clipped planchets where a section of the coin is missing due to overlapping blanks during cutting, creating a crescent-shaped clip that collectors adore. And sometimes coins are struck on rolled thin stock, making them underweight, or struck on improperly mixed alloy that gives them unusual colors, from reddish hues to almost golden or silvery tones, and each of these planchet errors turns an ordinary 1958 D penny into a unique piece of history. But the story does not end there because striking errors also play a major role, and these include off-center strikes where the design is only partially struck and a blank crescent of planchet remains visible, broad strikes where the coin expands beyond its normal diameter because the restraining collar was missing, multiple strikes where the coin was struck more than once leaving overlapping images, and even die caps where one coin sticks to the die and impresses its distorted image onto another, creating a dramatic and bizarre effect. And when you imagine a 1958 D penny with a combination of these errors, say, an off-center double die with a repunched mint mark on a wrong planchet, you can begin to see why collectors would battle at auction for ownership and push the value to the stratosphere. But beyond the physical errors themselves, we must also talk about the historical and emotional context that makes the 1958 D penny so special, because as the last year of the wheat cent design it holds nostalgic significance. It marks the end of a half-century tradition that began in 1909 with the introduction of the Lincoln cent, and coins that close out an era always carry extra appeal to collectors. Add to this the mystique of Denver Mint errors being less frequently discovered compared to Philadelphia, and you have a perfect storm for creating one of the most valuable coins in existence. And it is no exaggeration to say that the rarest and most dramatic error examples of the 1958 D penny could be worth as much as $43 million, not only because of their rarity but also because of the passion and competition of collectors who will pay whatever it takes to own something no one else has. Because when a coin becomes unique, when it exists as the only one of its kind, its value transcends normal market logic and enters the realm of art, prestige, and legacy, and wealthy collectors are willing to spend sums that seem absurd to most people because to them, it is not just buying a coin, it is buying immortality, it is buying a place in history, and this is why we see such astronomical valuations attached to coins like the 1958 D wheat penny with extraordinary errors. But what makes this story even more exciting is the possibility that such a coin could still be out there waiting to be discovered. Perhaps in an old coin jar tucked away in a grandparent's attic, perhaps in a forgotten roll of pennies from the bank, perhaps at a garage sale where someone overlooked its significance. And that possibility keeps the dream alive for millions of collectors and enthusiasts who meticulously search through their coins hoping to be the one who uncovers the next record-shattering rarity. And this dream of discovery is what makes the world of numismatics so captivating, because it is not just about numbers. It is about adventure, curiosity, and the constant reminder that fortune can hide in the most ordinary places. So when you look at a 1958 D-wheat penny, do not dismiss it as just another copper coin from the past. Look closely at the details, examine the date, the mint mark, the edges, the weight, the color, the alignment, because one tiny detail could mean the difference between a coin worth 1 cent and a coin worth $43 million. And as we have explored today, the kinds of errors that could make such a difference are numerous. From doubled dies and repunched mint marks to off-center strikes, wrong planches, clipped planches, broad strikes, multiple strikes, die cracks, and even combinations of these errors, each contributing to a coin's uniqueness and value. And when combined with the historical weight of being the final wheat cent struck at Denver, the allure of the 1958 D penny becomes undeniable. And this is why the legend of the $43 million 1958 D wheat penny continues to inspire collectors worldwide, fueling dreams, driving research, and keeping alive the endless excitement of the hunt for hidden treasures. And it all goes to show that in the world of coins, even the smallest piece of copper can hold the power to change lives forever. Last 1954's wheat penny USA coin. Today, as we dive into one of the most fascinating and unbelievable stories in the world of rare coin collecting, because in this episode we are going to talk about the legendary 1954's wheat penny, a coin that looks to most people like just another old copper cent from the 1950s, but that in rare cases has been valued at an absolutely staggering $30 million because of the unique errors, minting mistakes, and extraordinary anomalies that occurred during its production. And as we explore the details of this story, we will uncover how such a small coin that millions of people once carried in their pockets could be elevated into one of the rarest and most valuable coins in existence. What kinds of errors can make a 1954's wheat penny worth tens of millions? What possibilities still exist for finding one in circulation or in long-forgotten collections? And why the world of numismatics is so driven by passion, history, rarity, and the thrill of discovery that a humble 1-cent coin can be transformed into a multimillion-dollar treasure. So let us take a journey into history first, because 1954 was a time when the San Francisco Mint, identified by the S Mint mark, was still striking wheat cents in massive numbers, over 29 million of them to be exact, and to the average person these coins were simply part of daily commerce, handed out as change at grocery stores, tucked into piggy banks, and spent without a second thought. But behind the scenes at the Mint, the process of creating coins was not always perfect. And in that imperfection lies the entire story, because when mistakes happen in coin production, they produce anomalies, and those anomalies are what collectors crave. Those little quirks of minting that slip through quality control and into circulation, creating coins that should not exist and therefore are infinitely more desirable than their ordinary counterparts. And with the 1954's wheat penny, there are several categories of errors that could transform it from an ordinary cent into a coin worth $30 million. So let's dive into the details, starting with one of the most famous categories of mint errors, the doubled die, which occurs when the die used to strike the coin was improperly hubbed and shows doubling of the design elements, often visible in the date, the word liberty, or the motto "In God We Trust," and such doubling is instantly recognizable, making it one of the most dramatic and collectible types of error. And while doubled dies exist in many years, finding one on a 1954's penny would instantly elevate it into legendary territory. Then we move to repunched mint marks, where the S Mint mark was punched more than once at slightly different angles, a common practice in the days before mint marks were machine applied. and these overlapping or shadowed mint marks are prized by collectors for their uniqueness and the glimpse they provide into the human side of coin production. But then there are the even rarer errors, the kinds of mistakes that make jaws drop at auctions, and those include renplanchet strikes, where a penny is accidentally struck on a blank meant for another denomination or even a foreign coin. And imagine the sheer impossibility of a 1954 wheat penny struck on a silver dime planchet, or on a leftover steel planchet from 1943, or on a foreign blank that somehow ended up in the presses. Such a coin would instantly become a once-in-a-lifetime find, and its value would skyrocket into the tens of millions. Then there are clipped planchets, where part of the coin is missing because the blanks overlapped during cutting, producing a crescent-shaped cutout that is instantly recognizable, and sometimes multiple clips can occur, making the coin even more dramatic. And then we have striking errors such as off-center strikes where the design is shifted and leaves a blank crescent of metal exposed, broad strikes where the coin expands without the collar restraining it, multiple strikes where the design is impressed more than once creating ghost-like images, and even die caps where one coin sticks to the die and impresses its distorted image onto another coin, all of which produce coins that look bizarre and unique and are therefore immensely valuable. And then there are die cracks and cuds, where the dies themselves broke or cracked during use and left raised lines, blobs, or missing sections of design on the coin, and collectors love these because they represent a literal breakdown of the minting process frozen forever into metal. But when we talk about the 1954 wheat penny being worth $30 million, we are talking about the rarest, most dramatic, most unique combinations of these errors, coins that are truly one of a kind. Because when a coin exists as the only known example of a certain kind of error, it transcends normal numismatic value and enters the world of legend, becoming not just a coin but a work of art, a historical artifact, and a symbol of rarity itself. And wealthy collectors are willing to pay astronomical amounts to own such pieces because they are not just buying metal, they are buying bragging rights, prestige, and the knowledge that they own something no one else in the entire world can claim to possess. And this competitive drive is what pushes the price of a 1954 wheat penny with extraordinary errors into the $30 million range. And what makes this story even more captivating is the possibility that such coins still exist undiscovered, hiding in jars of change tucked away in attics, in old collections handed down through families, in rolls of pennies that have sat unsearched for decades. And this possibility is what fuels the dreams of collectors everywhere, because at any moment an ordinary day could turn into a life-changing event if someone finds a 1954 wheat penny with the right combination of errors. And this dream of discovery is what makes the world of coin collecting so thrilling. So when we break down the factors that contribute to this extraordinary value, we see rarity, uniqueness, error type, condition, and historical context all coming together. Because as the San Francisco Mint was nearing the end of wheat cent production, errors became more desirable, and the 1954 penny represents one of the last chances for collectors to capture such anomalies from the Mint before production shifted, and this adds to the allure. And when we imagine a coin that has survived nearly 70 years in pristine condition, with dramatic errors that make it unique, it is easy to see why collectors would be willing to pay $30 million to secure it, because they know it is not just a coin but an irreplaceable piece of history. And as we've seen, the types of errors that could lead to this value include doubled dies, repunched mint marks, renplanchet strikes, off-center strikes, broad strikes, multiple strikes, clipped planchets, die cracks, cuds, and die caps, and any combination of these would multiply the rarity and the appeal, creating a once-in-history coin. And the beauty of this story is that it keeps the dream alive for all of us, reminding us that treasure can be found in the most unexpected places, that history hides in plain sight, and that even a single penny can hold the power to change someone's life forever. So the next time you see a 1954 wheat penny, don't just pass it off as pocket change. Take a close look, examine the date, the mint mark, the details, because you never Know when you might be holding a fortune in your hands. And as the legend of the $30 million 1954 wheat penny continues to grow, it inspires collectors, excites dreamers, and fuels the never-ending search for the rarest and most valuable treasures that the world of numismatics has to offer.